Hi cuties, my name is Hanako Kozumi and this is the channel Nerdy Nekoma. Everything here is about Haikyuu chat stories and fanfic. Thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. And with that, welcome to today's video. Or in other words, welcome to the second part of Flinching, which is sadly not a prank. Today's ship is TsukiYamaKageHina, and again this follows directly of the Pretend to Get Beat Up series, so I would advise you to watch that first so that you understand everything. There are a few content warnings about injuries and panic attacks. If you know that you don't handle that well, please continue with caution, and if you don't want to watch it, that's completely fine. If you however do want to watch it, I hope you enjoy. Let's go. Hinata was nervously sitting on one of the chairs in the waiting room. His hands were clenched into fists, even though the stretch of the skin hurt. Every muscle in his body seemed tensed and his breathing was shallow. His head hung low and his eyes were focused on his thighs and fists resting on top of them. He felt completely alone, even though he knew he wasn't. His boyfriends, to be more specific, Yamaguchi and Tsukishima, since Kageyama was still in the location of his game, were by his side. But somehow, all the other noises around them, of people talking, kids screaming and running around, cell phones ringing and meaningless chatter, seemed to drown out their existence. His heart was racing. It was a little bit as if the voices were getting louder and closing in on him. Suddenly, there was a hand on his shoulder. That simple touch had him flinching violently as pictures from the attack made their way back into his mind. The guy grabbing him by said shoulder. Him using all his strength to find him off, but to no avail. And his body colliding painfully with the pavement. But when he looked up this time, eyes blown wide and movements hesitant, he was just met with a very startled Yamaguchi who seemed equally as scared as him. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." He gulped and tried to back away, but Hinata stopped him by holding onto his arm. "No, please, don't leave." His voice sounded much thinner than expected, and it shattered Yamaguchi's heart into pieces. "Hey, don't worry, I won't." He gently wrapped his arms around the smaller and gave a nervous smile to a nurse passing by. Over Hinata's shoulder, he could see Tsukishima. The blonde just came back from the reception and now looked like how Tadashi felt. Torn between anger and guilt, but in the end, all was overshadowed by the overwhelming feeling of helplessness. The taller took a deep breath and fixed his glasses, wiping his eyes in the process before resuming to walk over to them, a cup of water in hand. "Sho, I got the water for you." He made sure to announce his presence extra early to minimize the shock, but the ginger flinched regardless. "Thank you." His hands were trembling as he reached for the cup and gave Tsukishima a weak smile. Tsukishima clenched his jaw at this sight, but didn't allow the emotion to show on his face. Instead, he returned the smile and kneeled in front of Hinata. "Is there anything else I can do?" He gently took one of Hinata's hands and caressed the bandaged skin. The ginger shook his head, but before he could verbalize his answer, he flinched again when to the right another patient muttered a few curses after dropping his phone. Tsuki looked around and approached one of the nurses close by. "Excuse me?" "Yes? How can I help?" "My boyfriend is a little bit stressed out right now." He pointed at Hinata. "Is it possible if we wait outside? I know it's an inconvenience and I apologize, but I think he really needs it. It was rare, but Tsukishima sounded almost pleading while asking for permission. The nurse gave him a calculating look before walking over to Hinata, compassion reflecting on her face. Hey, how are you feeling? Hinata didn't reply. He looked at her nervously as if he wasn't certain what was expected of him. She smiled kindly. Come, if you like, I can bring you somewhere quiet. We'll get you when your appointment starts and make sure to do everything possible to make you feel better. Hinata nodded slowly, still hesitant. Tsukishima could see that he was struggling with something. Something else besides the obvious, but he failed to understand what it was. The nurse led them to another room. Tadashi guided Hinata to the chairs and made sure he was comfortable. Thank you again. Don't worry about it. It is kind of part of the job. He isn't the first patient we got with a panic disorder. With that, she left the room. Panic disorder? Tsukishima looked at Hinata. Was that it? Could this one meeting, just one with a bad day, have this serious consequences for Hinata's perception of the world? Could it fracture just like that? Just like the bones of his ribcage or the skin on his knees and knuckles? He gulped. They say mental illnesses are as serious as physical ones. And while that was more than true, in most cases, including theirs, there was one important difference between the two. A mental illness wouldn't heal as fast. It wasn't just a matter of time till the body had gotten the chance to repair itself. If she was right, an infection or broken rib was far from being the most serious consequence of the attack. Now that they were alone, Hinata relaxed and even laughed at Tadashi's jokes, and his signature bright smile returned. But Tsukishima sat just quietly next to them, lost in thoughts. You good, Tsuki? Yeah. Shoyo? The ginger's head perked up, and he looked at Tsukishima with undisguised curiosity and his typical beaming smile. It was hard to believe that he was the same person as just 5 minutes prior, when he seemed to be at the brim of a panic attack. We will always be there for you. You know that, right? Hinata's smile changed into a confused expression and he tilted his head slightly. Of course I do. I'm always there for you as well. He became quieter towards the end, avoided eye contact and started to nervously fumble with the bandages. I know. Yamaguchi looked up at him and suddenly his eyes lit up with realization. Sho, is there something wrong? I mean, besides the obvious, of course. No, why do you ask? He tried to cover the slight quivering of his bottom lip as he smiled again, brightly, but far less convincing. Sho, please. I can't bear to see you smiling like that. It's not real. Immediately Hinata's smile fell, and he looked at him with tears foaming in his eyes. So what if it's not? I'm just trying to... Yes? I just want to be strong, okay? His breathing turned heavy again, but this time with anger and frustration, mostly aimed at himself. What is so wrong about that? I couldn't do anything. I was so useless. And now, I can't even sit in a normal waiting room. Because let's face it, if anyone wanted to, they could easily hurt me. I'm just burdening you. No, you are not. Hinata buried his face in his hands. Really? I even flinched at you, even though you would never hurt me. I saw how much that hurt you. Shoyo, listen to me. It is completely normal to react like that. What you went through was traumatic, for the lack of a better word. Most people would react like that. Yeah, children. No, almost everyone. Think about Kenma. I'm sure he wasn't just calm after that, but does that make him weak? Hinata slowly shook his head. Do you blame him or think any less of him for panicking in that situation and maybe not fighting as much? Again, he shook his head, but it looked like he wanted to protest, yet Tsuki wouldn't let him. Then give yourself the same kind of compassion and empathy. Silence filled the room. Shoyo, we can work through this together. As your partners, we are here to support you. Yeah, but that shouldn't be a one-way street. Yet all I do is burdening you. I'm childish and weak and overall just a nuisance to you. Please don't call yourself that. You're not. He held Hinata tight, who started crying even though he stoically tried to fight it. Shoyo, have you any idea how much you give to us? The ginger looked at him, the tears slowly spilling over. TsukiYamaKageHina smiled sadly. Wow, we didn't really do a good job as your boyfriends, if you don't really know how much you mean to us. He brushed a few strands of orange curls from Hinata's face and leaned closer to leave a soft kiss on his forehead. Don't worry, I will fix that. Thank you all for watching till the end. I hope you liked it, even though it was a little bit more angsty than the last one. Yeah, so the next part is obviously going to be Boku Akakoro-ken. I'm really excited. I hope you will like that one as well. And if you liked it, please consider leaving a like because it really helps my channel grow. If you don't want to miss out on anything more in the future, consider subscribing. I hope you do because you're an amazing person and it would be awesome if you come back to this channel. And now have a wonderful day.